Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Isaacs. I am an endocrine pharmacist and also a certified diabetes care and education specialist. And what I wanted to talk about with you today is inhaled insulin. A lot of people are surprised to learn that there is inhaled insulin, that is an option in a way to take insulin. I think most people are familiar with insulin pens and vials and syringes, or they're taking their insulin through an insulin pump. So you might be wondering, well, why inhaled insulin? What is different about that? Why would we need to be able to do that? Well, so number one is that it's good to think about what are we trying to accomplish with insulin? What we're trying to accomplish is that we want to mimic how insulin works in a person without diabetes. So you have a person without diabetes. They're going to start eating, and immediately their insulin is going to start working in their system. And in fact, it's going to work so well that likely it's going to be able to keep their blood sugar levels under 140. And that insulin is going to wear off over a couple hours so that they're not going to be at risk of getting too much insulin and dropping low. We know, unfortunately, with injectable insulin, that it lasts a little bit too long and it takes a little too long to start working. And so, therefore, we usually will ask people to take it in advance, like 10 to 15 minutes before you're ready to eat. And we also know that it lasts in the body a little bit longer, and that puts people at risk of having low blood sugars, unfortunately. So I want to talk a little bit more about how does this work? So you are actually inhaling this type of insulin. And in case you're interested, this is what the inhaler looks like. It's very, very small. And it's got this little cap, and the cap comes off, and you actually put in little cartridges into the inhaler. And the cartridges, this is an example of what one of the cartridges looks like. So this insulin is inhaled into the lungs, and it turns out that the lungs are really good at being able to absorb this type of insulin. And so the result is that it ends up working a whole lot faster than injectable insulin. And it's much, much more similar to what we would call physiologic insulin, the insulin that a healthy pancreas can make. And so, to kind of better illustrate this, I want to share with you the time when it starts working. So, a person without diabetes, their insulin levels are going to start to be present in about 10 minutes after eating. With inhaled insulin, it's about 12 minutes. So, it's really, really, really close. But when you do subcutaneous delivery with an injection, it's about 17 to 30 minutes. So it's so much longer. And for this reason, inhaled insulin can be taken just right at the start of the meal. You don't need to plan and say, okay, when am I going to start eating? And make sure you get that in at least 15 minutes before that meal. But the other big difference is the time to peak effect, right? We want this to work with our food to really prevent the blood sugar from going too high. So, people without diabetes, this typically occurs at 45 minutes. With inhaled insulin, it's also 45 minutes. So it's like exactly how it should be, right? And then with injectable insulin, it's actually 90 to 120 minutes. So it's up to 2 hours. And that's why a lot of times we have this mismatch of blood sugar starts to rise, then the insulin kicks in. And so it ends up more of this up and down with the blood sugars. And you can see this if you're wearing a continuous glucose monitor, you can see this on the tracing. Now, the other part of this is, well, when does it wear off? Because we don't just want insulin hanging around in the bloodstream for too long. What if you're getting ready to go for a walk, to go exercise? You don't want that insulin still sticking around because you might drop too low. So again, a person without diabetes, this typically lasts for 210 minutes. So about 3.5 hours. Interestingly, with inhaled insulin, it's about 3 hours, 180 minutes. So it starts working fast, it wears off fast. And then with that injectable insulin, it's actually 275 to 320 minutes. So that insulin is really sticking around a lot longer. The other thing is that if your blood sugar is elevated, you want it to come down as quickly as possible, right? Like nobody says, I want to wait a couple hours before this injection starts to work. Well, because inhaled insulin works so much more quickly, it's really, really a great tool for helping to correct a high blood sugar. So I hope that this video has been helpful. And now at least you're aware that there are multiple choices for insulin delivery. And we have inhaled insulin, which is definitely a faster and more physiologic way of insulin delivery.